You have 45 minutes.
Oh, God, that's a long time.
Yeah, but you've got a lot of people with you.
Yeah.
And then at 9:45, we're going to hear from Matt and John. Great, we are live.
Good, John.
Yeah. So welcome everybody to Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. It is Friday. Is it the 7th? It's hard to believe.
Yes.
It's the 7th. Yes. Is it the 7th? Yes. Welcome. And it is just great to have Frank Trumpy back in our committee. It's just, Frank Trumpy, it's just great to have you here. And we have some new committee members since you were last here. And so we're missing 2 of them at the moment, but hopefully they'll arrive. We could just go around the table. And then if you'd be kind enough to introduce your team, that would be great.
We know each other, but Tom Chittenden, representing Chittenden Southeast.
Yeah, Allison
represent
Carson.
you, sir.
I do.
But for the rest of the team who don't know us, maybe, so after Thomas,
Yes.
we're introducing ourselves.
Good morning. I know Frank. I've known Frank for a long
I
time.
know, me too, but his team, a lot of team people here.
Right. So I'm Keisha Chittenden Southeast, so the Senate Majority Leader. Nice to meet everybody.
Allison Clarkson, Windsor District.
Randy Brock, Franklin, and part of Grand Isle.
Dave Weeks, Weldon County.
Great. And Frank Coffey, your team.
Okay, great. Frank Coffey, I worked for GBAC in my 30th year, I think, a while. This is Veronica Iredale, and she's interning with us from University of Vermont. We're really lucky to have her. She's done a fantastic job. We try to have between 6 and 8 interns every year from Middlebury, UVM, and the state colleges. So we, Vermont State University. So, and we've had a great team of folks. And my associate Alex Demley is here. Alex is a Middlebury grad.
We've seen it, Alex. It is good to be with you.
Tucked away in the back, sorry.
You've got my back, that's okay with me.
And then we've got the great help of Matt Coda here as well, helping us with government affairs. We've got a couple of special projects this year. So together with the RDCs, we have Patty online, Andrew Brewer helping the Regional Development Corporation, sorry. And then GBAC has contracted with DRM, Patty and Becky Landowski to help with focusing on housing initiatives for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'll get into that in a little bit, but it's kind of an area that I came to. My daughter passed away around 9 years ago from opiate addiction issues, and I adopted a little boy who was 2 and autistic. So I had the joy of going through life with him and learning the challenges that he faces both in school and in community, and then just thinking forward. I'm not young, so I was a dad at 60 for the second time, and it's the coolest thing ever. But
You were young at heart.
yeah. Now I just got to keep moving. So we're kind of looking at long-term different housing options for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So it's kind of a issue of passion for a lot of us, and I've joined with a lot of friends. I'll get into that in a little bit.
Good, because it's definitely on our housing list of priorities.
Thank you for that. Let me tell you a little bit about GBIC. So Vermont, as you well know, has 14 counties, but we have 12 regions for land use and transportation planning, and the regional planning commissions cover those areas, and they work with the municipalities. And then we have 12 regions for economic development. So GBIC and Brattleboro were created in 1954, and Rutland County Economic Development is our first economic development organization in Vermont. That was in I think 1946. And at the time, where Vermonters worked was changing. We were losing our textile mills. So the state had a real strong focus that emanated out of the regions to create economic development entities that were partnered with municipalities and with the state to really focus on recruiting manufacturing jobs in Vermont. So we were created in 1954 by an act of the legislature. It was an initiative headed by the mayor of Burlington at the time, which was Mayor Moran. And it was a collaboration of municipalities and people from the private sector, the communities, basically, the chambers of commerce, people wanted a focus on economic development. So I had the good fortune of, I'll back up here. I worked in this room in my junior year at UVM in the Legislative Council. I think I was one of the first interns. And this is where I met Governor Snelling, who was the House Minority Leader at the time. And I was very liberal Democrat. And we didn't see the world the same on a lot of things. And then I got to start working with him and saw how brilliant he was. And his focus on land use planning, economic development, it was unbelievable. So I was assigned to Michael Bohosky, who was a freshman legislator in the House Committee on Education at the time. So I spent 2 years.
He was younger than you.
He was older than me, yeah. Well, he was older. I was at UVM with his brother, Paul. And Paul and I were friends. And there was a guy named Joel Charrington that was heading the Legislative Council. So I was assigned to him. And Bill Russell was here, Ed Miller. Those are probably the
I remember
names.
Ed Miller.
Yeah,
Boston Truck,
yeah.
that Ed Miller.
He
But
was
the different Ed
a
Miller.
lawyer, an attorney. I think he
Did
ended up doing
did he
lobbying
represent the
later.
busing, the bus industry?
Yeah, and Bill.
Thank you.
And Bill
Even
Russell
lobbying.
retired, what, 8 years ago or so?
Yeah. Oh, no,
More than that,
Yeah.
18.
Bill actually has, we've had several heads of ledge councils since Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny to be writing veggie with Senator Luzzi and Michael Wasser, who was in the tax department. We had Dan Smith and Bill Russell together in the final days of the session up in Bill's office, just taking away, seeing what you wanted and then trying to translate that into,
You ought to see what's happened to Bill's office. It's now a committee room.
I'll get
You
to,
should go take a peek
yeah,
before you go.
yeah, I'll get to look. So anyway, GBIC,
Greater Burlington.
Greater Burlington Industrial Corporation. We basically go by GBIC. Went through a branding exercise probably 20 years ago, saying the industrial age was 10 ages ago. Maybe we should change our name. And then
Maybe it's coming
so
back.
everyone
Yeah.
knows us, so we just go by GBIC primarily. But we work. Probably our closest partner is the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission that we work closest with. You'd probably see Charlie Baker a
All the
lot.
time.
He's focusing on housing issues, transportation planning. Together with Alex, we work on our comprehensive economic development strategy. We're now in four county? How many counties?
4 county.
Yeah. So it's Rutland, Chittenden, Addison, and Washington are a SEDS area now, which is really good.
We have not had a SEDS meeting in our neck of the woods in a while.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to become of EDA, but it's always been tough for Chittenden County to get any money from EDA. So, you know, time will tell how those resources go. Well, GBIC started focusing on the building of industrial parks because at that time in the 50s, there really weren't industrial parks. So we worked with the municipalities and the state through federal money and state money to build the infrastructure necessary to basically capture pieces of land that were close to town centers, not in town centers, but close enough and close to transportation accesses, and build the necessary water, wastewater infrastructure, the roads, and rail was important, like in St. Albans, where I'm from. There's a great industrial park in St. Albans town that is right on a rail line. It's 0.8 miles from the interstate. It's perfect location. And that was, the origins of GBIC and Brattleboro and Rutland was to focus on those areas. Through the years, more economic development corporations started to be created. Governor Salmon was really instrumental in that. And then Governor Snelling rounded it out, and he wanted to have regional planning commissions and regional economic development corporations. So I actually had the privilege to run Franklin County Industrial Development for 2 years when Snelling was governor. And we were recruiting industry from Germany, Montreal and Toronto were our primary areas. And to watch him focus on recruitment, like we were focused on industry sectors and then did deep research after who we were going after. And I'd say a lot of the companies that he recruited over the years are still here.
What are some of the key ones? Just
Well, Beeland Valve, Bombardier had a big presence here. The chocolate manufacturer in St. Albans was one that he had a major role in recruiting. There's a bunch of others.
Oh, great, and they're still here.
Yeah. And he also had a strong focus on entrepreneurship, and then knowing that it's more likely for a small place like Vermont to grow your own. And so innovation, entrepreneurship. So he was very supportive of Burton Snowboards. We helped create Burton Snowboards into the company that they are today. We recruited IBM into Vermont with the help of the governor at the time. And we actually owned an industrial park in Essex, and they came in and bought the whole industrial park, and then they were up and running. So our focus in economic development, we're kind of purists. We're not a chamber of commerce, so we're purely an economic development organization that's focusing on high wage jobs for working Vermonters and their families. That's our primary goal and our mission. That requires us to work with key employers. And so we're focused on employers who have the profile of being dollar importing goods and services exporting. So if you make a product, add value to the product, or you perform a service and add value to that service, and you export that product or service out of Vermont and bring the first dollar to the Vermont economy, then you are a key employer for us. And when I started doing economic development, 26% of our labor force was in manufacturing, and today it's like 10%. And we're still higher than the US, but just by, a fraction. So there's a lot in value-added services now as well. So we do not focus on tourism per se, because we have an affiliation with the Lake Chamber who
They're
has.
co-housed with you, right?
Yeah, we're located in the same building. We wish regional planning was in the same building as well. It'd be so great if they were. But we have a regional resource center that we bought in Burlington. It's an old armory, and we dedicate the place really to be a center for economic development. So we have the whole ground level is donated to government entities and nonprofits that are associated with community and economic development. So we have Vermont Manufacturing Extension Center there, the Vermont Small Business Development Center, whatever PTAC is now. What's their name, Alex?
APAC Accelerate.
Yeah. So they help. They're based out of the Department of Economic Development, and they help Vermonters and Vermont companies and employers access state and federal contracts. And then the Small Business Development Center has a counselor there who's working with small businesses. And then we have a bunch of meeting rooms for folks to come in and meet economic development. We also have Vita in the building, and that's their Burlington office is in our building. And then Molly Gray brought in the Afghan Alliance in our building, and they're helping those that are new Americans and immigrants that are coming in. She's running a really dynamic program in there. And then the Lake Champlain Chamber and their tourism division is in the building as well. So
Is the Council on World Affairs still?
they are there as well. Yeah. The chamber has a lot of affiliates. So, in some ways, we're kind of in a period that resembles when I started in economic development. We don't have much industrial land capacity anymore. So when we built industrial parks as a state, our focus was to pretty much treat them as land banks. So a land banks for high value added economic development activities. So to give you a case in point, GBIC's last industrial park that we built was Catamount Industrial Park in Milton. And that was in 1983. And we still have 2 lots in that park that we could have sold 30 years ago, but we've kept them waiting for an employer that's going to be a value-added employer. So Chittenden County is a little bit more expensive to buy land. And
So that's precious.
so it really is. So when I look at the economy, my region is Chittenden County, but the economy doesn't know geographic or political boundaries. So the Northwest Vermont economy is 50 miles from the center of Burlington, and it captures Franklin County, Grand Isle County, a little bit of Lamoille County, a little bit of Addison, a little bit of Washington, and we're interdependent. So we probably immigrate 11,000 people, 26,000 people a day. We outmigrate a little bit under 10,000. So there's a lot of people from Franklin County coming in, and we send people from Franklin County. There's a lot of people from Chittenden County going into Washington County, working in state government, national life, in Waterbury. So it's, there's a lot of relationships between the counties, and we work really closely with all the other regional economic development corporations and our strategic partner, the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. So we do have a contract with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development and Department of Economic Development to basically do their programs and services in our county, the same as all the other regional development corporations do.
Frank, when you hear about industrial infrastructure concerns, do you still hear like 3-phase power is an issue in certain, like what do we need to do to ensure there's industrial infrastructure?
Well, we got to take a long view, but
Yeah.
the governor had a program last year, RIDIP, that was really good because it was focusing on expanding industrial areas throughout Vermont.
Mhm.
And so it was a really good step forward. And what the goal of it was to increase land capacity or build infrastructure
Mhm.
in areas around the state. I really think both in housing and in economic development, we're almost like 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So like even in housing, in the 60s, my parents built a ranch house in St. Albans, and the municipality put the road in and the water and the sewer. And that was what was going on in the 40s, 50s, early 60s. And then in the 70s, we kind of changed in Vermont, saying, you developer put in the roads and the water and the sewer, and then we'll take the road over. They used to take the road over in a year. I served as a member of the board of select persons in St. Albans town for 6 years. I did it concurrently with 3 years of serving as economic development commissioner. So those of you who have served on city councils, you get a kick out of it. You're dealing with this during the day, and then you go home and listen to dog fights and other things at night. And we didn't even have a town manager in St. Albans at the time, which is entertaining.
So can I just tag on to Keisha's question?
Yeah.
Because I love the idea of industrial parks as land banks for our economy. You developed the industrial parks, you did water and sewer in them without TIFs. What, right? So what was the mechanism you used to develop water and sewer at that point? What was the
We got a lot of
financing
state
piece?
and federal help. There was a lot of state and federal help, like
Yeah.
the municipalities couldn't do it without
Right.
state and federal help. And costs were like a fraction of what they are now. like we were selling acreage in all the RDCs were basically selling acres of lots in industrial parks for like $25,000 an acre. Now we can't even build it for 250 to 300,000 an acre. We can't buy the land, go through the permitting process, get it infrastructure. And so it's
Right.
We've got to kind of take the long view. I know the governor's looking at this from a longer view as how we build more capacity.
Right.
We're not going to attract massive manufacturers here in Vermont. The cost of doing business here is higher because it's winter. We've got a smaller population, and the way manufacturers operate now, Senator Brock knows, you're looking at, if you have a manufacturing facility in North America, you may have one or two. And then you'll have distribution centers. So you have North America, South America, Europe, Asia. It's very different. But for entrepreneurs, that's where the majority of our manufacturing entities. So Beta Technologies, Burton Snowboards, Rhino Foods, the chocolate plant in St. Albans that goes on, all Cabot, look around the state. And we've been very successful at growing our own.
Well, we're an economy based on entrepreneurs because every farmer was an entrepreneur. We had a very successful Small Business Wednesday 2 weeks ago, which there were a bunch of takeaways in terms of how we can really continue to support our entrepreneurs and small businesses. So
What are you hearing about fulfillment? I mean, I think of like Skeeta and Corinne Prevo and, one day she might have her own large facility, but in the meantime, she has like boxes all over her office. So she's trying to, get.
Well, it's amazing
yeah.
watching a company like that grow
Yeah.
from being a local
Right.
company to be a global,
Yeah.
global
Yeah.
touch, which
she begins
is the
as a
story of
micro-business.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She started like a student,
Yeah,
So,
it's what our focus in entrepreneurship at GVAC, we can't do everything. So we have to do the nuts and bolts, right? And fulfill our contractual obligations to the state. And so I personally spend a lot of time on the Vermont Center for Emerging Technologies. I helped found it with Dr. John Evans, who was Dean of the Med School at UVM, and Fred Hackett, a former business person in Vermont. And we went to the university and wanted to create a technology incubator.
you did.
Just dropped the line. Sorry, 1 second. There you go.
Nope. Yeah, we are popped on and off. So, sorry, continue.
So we're very involved with the Vermont EPSCoR program, and that's how National Science Foundation money comes into the state of Vermont. So that's a collaboration between University of Vermont and Vermont State University and Norwich, Champlain. So it's pretty good affiliation. So, I'll talk about industrial land. I'll finish up on that. As we move forward, we really need to look at that as a state on building more. We need housing. We need land for industrial. The state's done really well focusing on downtowns and village centers.
Thank you. Can I ask, so I know you
Yeah,
represent
we'll start on it.
Arlington
Yeah.
Industrial Corporation, but what's come up a couple of times is how when we look at excess capacity, especially in housing, with the Rutland area, my friend Dave Weeks across the table from me here, it seems like, would you speak to any opportunities down there for more industrial parks? I know you spoke about St. Albans, Milton, County, that's beyond your wheelhouse, so to speak, but do you see economic opportunity growth in industrial parks in that area?
I'd say every county should have a strong inventory of infrastructure, industrial land. And we work together as a team. Like when a prospect comes into Vermont, our protocol is the governor and the secretary of commerce and the commissioner of economic development lead in recruitment, and we support them. We sell Vermont. When they tell us where they want to be, then we represent our regions. But we're part of Team Vermont. So we sell Vermont. We don't care where they locate, as long as they come to Vermont.
No,
Side of that, transportation has come up. So Interstate 89, we saw that there was somewhat of a recognizable pattern, and it seems like Rutland can in some ways be seen as a transportation desert. Do you know if that's on your radar at all? What major transportation initiatives to get more growth? And
I'd have to defer to Charlie on that, or Alex, in terms of our.
they're
site
trying though.
work.
As you said, transportation is a key piece in terms of access for industrial park. So the transportation piece is key to, I mean, we have a Randolph Industrial Park that is quite a distance off off of 89. We have one in Springfield and I think a couple in Rutland, and they're not that close to any major hub except Ford. And so,
My problem is I know the history of what we did and what we didn't do.
yeah,
And it's, now you can only look back, right? So you can learn from where Snelling's model was, he brought planning, economic planning and land use planning into the governor's
Right.
office.
which was
So yeah, a land use planner and an economist. Jeff Carr was a young economist working in his office at the time, a colleague of mine from UVM. And his philosophy was to build industrial around interstate or highway interchanges.
right.
So I'll give you an example and then I'll close on this. In 1983, GBIC could have bought all the land where so the infrastructure was there. We had to wait almost, 15 years to get wastewater infrastructure into Milton. So that's a big role. I was at Franklin County Industrial Development when we were building the St. Albans Town Industrial Park, and we were very thoughtful about the location of it and its capability of connecting to wastewater infrastructure that was very close by, rail, electrical, natural gas. It was
In Canada.
yeah. Yes.
So it's full, right? As an industrial park.
No,
It's not?
no, I think it has 7 more lots. Tim Smith is the director of Franklin County Industrial Development. He and his board have done a phenomenal job. And they have an industrial park in Enosburg and Swanton. There's a dairy park in Georgia. We work to help that dairy park with our foreign trade zone.
So as you know, your first priority housing, we're working worked hard for the last 2 years. We've gotten some great pieces through industrial parks. What would you suggest we do to further fill is there an ask you have of the legislature or further just support the resource of the industrial park?
Yeah, I defer to Secretary Curley and Commissioner Goldstein, but if
Okay.
the REDIF program had $5 million, if there's money to recapitalize that, it would be really good to do.
So
that.
recapitalizing the
Yeah.
park.
And just, let the regions tell you what they need. They know.
Yeah.
Like we know there's very little industrial land capacity left in Chittenden County.
Yeah.
It's because we can't afford to do it. When you're land banking it, you can't turn it over. Like you could probably, I almost more like
Yeah.
today.
A little more momentarily. So.
Just so everyone watching at home knows why
That's
that's
okay.
happening.
Did well, timing it.
So, Frank, sorry, keep going.
So housing, anything you can do to improve
Right,
housing, thank you. Thank you so much. And well, thank you for serving, taking times out of your lives to to do this. I know what it requires, and you could all be doing a lot of other dynamic things. So it's really meaningful as a Vermonter to see you do this.
Randy has a question.
Frank, would there be anything that you'd ask us to stop doing?
Ah,
I have a whole bill.
I'll have to think. I have to give that some thought. Yeah.
Sometimes the legislature always tries to help, but there's times in which
Yeah.
help is not useful. Or there are other things that we ought to be doing. And so if you do think of something that we should repeal, something that we should stop doing, something along those lines, that would be helpful to know.
Thank you. I'll give that some.
We hear a lot about election time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thomas has one and then.
Do you think we should add an exit to the city, to Bolton, so as to provide more access to that land?
if we could afford to do it, it would be nice. It does, if the community support it, then the community support it. Then like,
There's
yeah.
another question.
And South Burlington can use one too. It would be incredible. Like I worked for Governor Dean during the Surf Highway and certainly had a difference of opinion with him about how that ended. We should have built the Surf Highway because we've got gridlock in Chittenden County, but we didn't. So can't replay that. A couple other things I wanted to talk about, if I may. One, and these are passion projects. So I started with our initiative to help those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We put some money and organizational help. So our whole office team is on our own time, is helping this wonderful group, primarily of moms of adults with intellectual and
DDHI.
yeah. And then we help. So we're working also with Michael Monty of Champlain Housing Trust, and he has a son with autism as well. So he knows this, like I do, raising a child with autism. And you gave funding to VHIP last year. And if you could do that again, I guess the governor's got to recommend in here.
Yeah.
That would be incredibly meaningful. We've got a lot of catching up to do, as a state. But I'm really optimistic. There's a lot of people working together. There's great folks in the Agency of Human Services. Anybody working with people with disabilities has been just great partners. So thank you for whatever you're doing. And my last area I want to talk about comes from the heart. And the chair and I have worked on this together for the past 15 years. Workforce, when I look at workforce development, it took me down to education. So we started first encouraging all the institutions of higher education to create internship programs, co-op programs that are involving everyone at the college and university level to try to get to know Vermont employers so that we can try to retain some of them.
Yeah.
So all the leaders of the institutions of higher education in Vermont embrace that. We then wheeled to pre-K. And we really, as an organization, we basically said, we don't care how much it takes. Like, that is the best investment that we can make because we're so poor. There's so much poverty in Vermont, and it's an economic leveler. Then we went from there to the high school experience. And that is where we've hunkered down at GVIC for the past 12 years, is focusing on when 50% of your graduates of your high schools in Vermont go on to nothing. You're going to hear John Piscitelli talk about what the trades need. And I commend the Piscitelli family for their initiative. Like they didn't sit back and wait for a solution. They're doing it.
Jumped right in.
Yeah.
Right.
So this started like 12 years ago. I said to one of my colleagues at GVAC, I'll bet 50% of those who go to high school go on to nothing. And find that data. So we did, and we started working with BSAC and with the state colleges to really look at those numbers, because those are potential feeders to Vermont State University, to UVM, to all our institutions of higher education.
BTC.
So
Certificate program.
the data show that 50+% don't go on to anything, or they drop out in 3 semesters. And I can tell you from having a daughter that had opiate addiction issues and died from it, that we own them and they own us. And they're the ones that stay in Vermont. And if we do not find meaningful curriculum for them, we're going to pay for them socially forever. So if we had curriculums that focus on career, technical, vocational curriculums, and honestly, I don't care who does it or how they do it. Because a lot of times in Vermont, we get lost in the governance, who's doing it, how it's funded. Let's step back from there and let's just do it. Let's find a way to do it. Today, we have 17 career technical education centers. 3 are independently, geographically separate, and 14 are co-located with high schools. So I'm a parent in Colchester, and I have 2 places I can send my child if my daughter wants to be in applied graphics or an LNA, or my son thinks he might want to be a carpenter or in manufacturing. Then first, their schedules have to line up. They can go to Burlington Technical Academy or Essex Technical Academy. And then if everything lines up, then they can only go full-time if they're a junior or senior. And then Colchester loses 86% of the education money to send them there. So there's no incentive for Colchester or any school to give up that student. And you have to understand from the high school's perspective, their costs are increasing, their enrollment is declining. This is going on statewide. This is something we need to get around. I know you're looking at education this year.
Well, no, but I mean,
Yeah.
we've invested in that, the whole CTE plan has been being worked on now for 3 years, and the APA, you know, we have this proposal, and it's in some ways the governance structure that's being proposed it's got to work out together. But you're hitting on the reason that we funded that planning work, and we desperately need to introduce, as you know, you've heard me, CTE at a much earlier age. Let our 9th and 10th graders get really excited by this work so that they don't drop out. That's our other thing you haven't mentioned is the dropout rate, which is, if you have kids dropping out at 16 without something for them to do, without being excited about something to do, we're really in deep doo-doo. And we have to get them started earlier, and we have to get rid of this artificial loss of finance. We have to unite that financing in significant ways, and that they've got proposals on how to do that, and that's all been put a little bit on hold for a bunch of different reasons. But if you haven't read that study, you should read their
I know the last pilot was done during the pandemic.
We did 3.
Yeah. And that probably was
but
not
out of that came
as comprehensive as it could, because I understood the only entities that submitted were the 3 independent.
the 3 independents, right?
Yeah. So I don't care how we do it, as
Yeah.
long as we do the curriculum,
Right.
or who does it.
Yeah.
The curriculum is vital, because our Vermont workforce needs those people.
Yeah.
And we owe them the tools to earn a meaningful income. Like, they're going to live here in Vermont. We need them in the workforce. John will talk about the trades, like try to get a plumber. So
Yeah.
Or dental hygienist.
anything, it's like, we are so lucky. Early on, when Governor Scott first came in, I was chairing the Workforce Development Board. And I said I had a conversation with him, and I said, this may sound weird, but our transition to a new workforce is retirees. And I look at our own office, we have some young people, and then we have 60% of our team is over 60 years old. And every single one of them has skills that are irreplaceable. Some of them are doing what they did before. We contract with a lot of people. So, I think anybody who's aging decides, well, I don't want to retire, or they retired for a couple of years ago. This is boring. And then they haven't saved enough. So we need them. to help us be that bridge.
Well, I hope we will continue to work together on the State Workforce Development Board in its new configuration and with its new chair and with our new Office of Workforce Strategy and Expansion, Strategy and Development.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sticking with it because
Well-
it's really, really important.
Well.
And having
wired together.
legislators involved in it is really important because
Yeah.
it lets you see from the ground level what is going on. And that, though that's a huge board.
Oh, now it's much reduced.
Yeah.
Now we're
You
really
got
pumping
to
down.
see the different sectors and,
I was talking to Senator Harrison this morning, who's chairing institutions, and we need to be thinking about the same thing for correction. They're huge campuses. They have lots of idle folks who
yeah,
are down on their luck, and we've stopped creating a pipeline for them back into the workforce in a lot of ways.
Well, we didn't build, for example, in Springfield, remember they built the road instead of building the Career and Technical Education Center. That they lost big time on that, big time.
well,
And
it's
that,
definitely an opportunity. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
thank you.
Thank you so
And-
much. I guess I did use the time.
Well, come back anytime. It's
Right,
great.
can I ask
Yeah.
two things
Yeah.
that are on my radar, and I don't know if someone is as laser focused as you said, smelling with a certain thing. Airports and a convention center.
Yeah.
Is somebody laser focused on those two things?
I know the regional planning commissions have been very focused. Agency of Commerce is really focused. Governor's had a strong focus on airports and
Mhm.
getting the maximum out of the airports regionally.
Yeah,
So I trust that he's doing good work. He and his team are doing good work about that.
yeah.
The other question?
Convention center.
A
You and I
convention-
worked on a convention center
Well,
16
look,
years.
I'm on the UVM board.
Yeah.
And I stayed on that board because we haven't completed the Terrence Center. And we need to complete the Terrence Center at UVM. Like, I've been on, in the past 30 years, on probably 10 different commissions
Yeah,
looking at convention centers.
yeah.
They don't really make money, so you have to have an anchor.
Yeah.
An anchor can afford to keep them going,
Mhm.
and it's a college or university.
Mhm. But do you
So-
think if it was, is anyone talking about where it would be physically located, right? Because Hula has a big thing going, South Burlington has a lot in the works. Is someone focused on where is this going to happen? Because-
Well, UVM, there's $20 million invested in it.
Right,
There's
I was
9
gonna say
million in the
investment.
ground, 6 to 9 million in the ground. You drive down Spear Street and look near the Aiken Research Center, there's $4 million worth of fabricated steel sitting behind a chain link fence.
Terrence Center, but
Yeah.
for the convention center, it's gotta be the waterfront or the welcome block.
Right.
I don't know how many we can do. Like, we have the Champlain Valley Fairgrounds. Rutland
Yeah.
has a wonderful fairgrounds. Franklin County had the field days. Everyone has their areas. We got to look at it with a Vermont focus.
Yeah.
So
So more to follow on
Yeah,
that. I
thank
think
you.
that's a wonderful thing to continue to focus on. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for
Enjoyed
this
it,
time.
as always. And we shall see you soon. Lovely to meet your team.
I have a DDHI bill section, so
Thank
I'll
you.
email Marla.
Oh, Marla's
But
incredible.
I got you. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so
I'm glad
much.
you're doing
All right,
that.
thanks. Good to see you.
So you have
Great
to count
to
our
have-
dogs before you leave. right?
Yeah, I'll go out and coach down.
So we are going to continue and expand on our workforce theme. And Matt, we invite you and John up if you want to present together, if you want to go first, however you've got. divided.
And stay close to Frank. He's a great mentor. He won't steer you wrong. I'll try. He doesn't stick me out for.
A mentor with extraordinary institution.
Thank you so
Goodbye,
much.
goodbye. Great to see you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very.
Supporting needs to be a convention center.
Right.
Block.
So we're gonna pivot to Matt.
All right.
Matt Musgrave, you have met everybody around the table, I think.
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great. And anyway, introduce yourself. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you and this exciting new piece of work that you have invested so much of your time and imparted.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to be here and it's an honor to be here with the committee. I've known you all for a long time. I think I've been coming into this building, sitting in these chairs for around 10 years now, and had a couple of different acronyms. My new acronym is ABC. So the Associated Builders and Contractors is a national trade association for commercial construction with 67 chapters across the United States. The New Hampshire, Vermont chapter has around 290 members, and we're currently growing. We represent members all over New England, Vermont, Kansas, Maine, as well as Massachusetts. ABC members participate in the merit shop philosophy, and what that is it starts with growing people, and by the employers understanding that the most valuable asset that they have is the staff that's out there in the field actually working. It's on them to help build those individuals. It's by offering them well-paying jobs, good outcomes, and good benefits, and safety, and working ethically with them, but also creating pathways for them to advance their skills in the profession. And that helps them not only increase the individual's abilities, pay, and position within the company, but it also helps those companies become more professional. They win more bids, and they work to the betterment of their community. So that's really what a merit shop is. It's the employer's commitment to building a responsible and ethical system for their employees to grow within.
Is there something, is there kind of a group called merit shops? And is there something like V corporations that a merit shop is a bad? I mean, is there?
No,
No, it's
No,
a term.
it's just it's a higher calling that we follow, which really it called our members to be those responsible employers, to take care of their people. Because again, when we look at the workforce, and that's really a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, it's about attracting those people. It's about keeping those people. And in order to, we have a small market here where we only have about 2,000 individuals coming into the construction market every single year. Reputations are fast moving through the marketplace. And so it's important that not only do we practice these systems of merit, but we also talk about it so that people see that we really are committed to providing that level of service to the community and the people that work with us.
Is it like a guild? Like, I feel like guilds are coming back into fashion as a way to talk about integrity and, continued mutual advancement and support.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would go there. I would call it more of a mission statement maybe than anything else. I don't believe that we have any organizational pieces around that other than just the philosophy.
Bring back the guild.
Well, we can talk about that. I'm just not sure how that goes. I don't know how that fits with my testimony today, but we can fit that in somehow. So ABC provides a lot of services to its membership, including workforce development, of course, advocacy. You'll see me in the building, although this year I'll tell you a story about where a lot of my time has gone this year. But you'll see me in the building on environmental issues, on employer-employee related issues, workforce development, economical issues. So I'll still be in here, happy to continue to work. We also do business consulting and networking. We help them grow their businesses. In fact, one of our most popular training programs that we have is the Future Leaders in Construction program, where we have people that are anything from working in the C-suite all the way down to brand new field people, where we come in. It's a year-long course. They come in once a month, and we talk about different ways of soft skills, like how to communicate, how to work effectively, how to prioritize, how to work with conflict and move forward. So that's a couple of the different things that we do with them. We work with a lot of different groups in the community, like the Vermont Career Technical Centers, Vermont Adult Learning, Vermont Works for Women, National Association of Women in Construction. We also participate with recovery organizations, state agencies, and there's a lot of other organizations related to workforce that we work with. And I also personally sit on the SEON, Sustainable Energy Opportunity Network Board, which is another workforce organization out of Brattleboro. So we work with a lot of the different players in the community. And one of the things that ABC is able to offer is we're the state sponsor for the National Center for Construction Education and Research. That's NCCER. I'm only going to say that once. I'll use the acronym. NCCER. National Center for Construction Education and Research. And that's a nationally recognized curriculum for
Right.
construction. We happen to be the statewide sponsor, so we certify centers and teachers like the CTE centers, their teachers. We also certify people in the prisons, which, by the way, I'll be doing a little tour of the prisons and talking about what it means to come and work in construction very soon. Other training outfits, Cion is one of them. We help some of our employers become certified, and we operate our own apprentice program that's an employer-sponsored program. So we now have our NCCR curriculum apprentice program. We've graduated 3 cohorts through our employer-sponsored program. So it's been very successful so far. The feedback has been amazing. I attended the graduation back this fall and asked, just went around and spoke candidly with some of the individuals in the room. And their request was, what's next? Is there an apprentice level 2? What do I do now? One of the apprentices were so excited over their graduation, they rapidly went home, quit their job, and put up a sign that they are now a contractor on Facebook. They came back to their employer, but they were really excited with what they were able to learn. We're also working on a first in the state free apprenticeship program, and that is going to be a 6 to 8 week kind of rapid learning program that's set up to bring people in that have just come out of the CTE programs or are coming in at large that want to get into the construction program. So when someone comes out of the CTE, they're generally learning more on the residential side of construction. So what we're trying to do is set them up so when they go to work for a commercial construction company, they actually can come in and spend some short time, not only learning the hard skills that you need to learn to be on a commercial construction site, but the safety skills, as well as we're also working on soft skills, things like financial management, communication skills, and I mean, things that we come to find we take for granted, things like showing up on time, things like that, how to save money to get gas in your vehicle to get to work. You'd be surprised how often that we actually hear that as feedback. So that was one of the requests from the employers, is we had a little bit of an element of financial awareness to that, so that they understand what they're doing. So in July of 24.
Sorry, just on pre-apprenticeship.
Yeah.
It strikes me that pre-apprenticeship might begin as a junior in high school too. I mean, as part of expanding our dual enrollment and dual opportunities for high school students, getting them working in the summer, that strikes me as a pre-apprenticeship opportunity too, if they're in a CT program.
So we're actually exploring these as opportunities. I've been communicating with the St. Albans program, as a matter of fact, and they're looking for different alternatives to bring people to. One of the things that we do face as a challenge while they're in school is if they are not 18 yet, it can be difficult to have them in dangerous jobs per OSHA requirements. But that's something that we're working on with the schools to try to be able to accelerate that and bring people in.
Yeah, let's work on that together.
Absolutely happy to do so.
Whatever we have to. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you didn't. No, I'm used to this. A little bit hot seat. So in July of 2024, I made my change and I came over to the Associated Builders and Contractors. And within a couple of weeks of joining this association, a handful of our members called us in for a meeting. And at that meeting, it was the member said, we really appreciate what's going on with the apprenticeship program. We really have our idea. We know our eyes are on workforce development right now. And what we believe we need is to supercharge your program. We believe we need to bring dignity back to the trades, promote it as a valuable pathway that people can go down. And we need not only a program, but we need a center to do so. So what began at that moment was planning for and designing of a training center that would be located in Chittenden County. Through extremely generous cash, in-kind, and material donations from not only our members of the public, and others, we've been able to secure a 10,000 square foot facility in Winooski, right off of Interstate 89, and we've begun our interior fit up. Part of the project that we're putting together is we've developed a 501c3 nonprofit board of directors to help us oversee the program. oversee the training that we're doing, oversee the output that we're doing, as well as be a conduit to be able to accept donations for us to stay open and continue to do the things that we're doing. We put that together. By pairing the nonprofit model with the generosity of our industry, it's actually made this possible. This actually was more of a 10-year plan. And if we were to budget this out and put it together as an association with our dues structure and everything like that, we're talking a 10-year plan, lots of loans. But by putting together this nonprofit structure, working with our members, I mean, you'd just be shocked to see the generosity and support that we've been getting, whether it's paid labor that the company's donating. We have almost all of the materials that we're building up these classrooms with are either a contribution from our members. We also have what they call the Trimmer Grant program through the Associated Building Contractors. It's helping us with technology in the building to create a first-class training facility that we'll be able to use not only for our members, but other people in the community. We've been talking and working with the Home Builders Association. There's a group I'm working with that just won a grant to develop a weatherization workforce.
Oh, great.
So we see this as being, a place in Chittenden County that has been underserved for a private/nonprofit training facility.
So when do you expect it to be finished? And give us a range of some of the skills that you'll be training in and professions you'll be training in.
Yeah. So we're
And
looking.
when can we maybe, this is another field trip opportunity,
Yes.
Sam,
Yeah.
that we might have.
Well, we certainly are going to arrange the field trip. We are looking to have major construction finished during mid to late March. That's a moving target just by, everything that we're seeing now, acquisition of materials may become an issue if we have to get anything from Canada the next 30 days. But we're aiming for mid-March. I'm going to say end of March is probably a better, safer bet. That's when we go online in April with our apprenticeship. Fourth cohort begins. We've hired a full-time instructor that will be in the building all day long, who will not only be a full-time instructor, but he'll also operate as a sort of a business agent to go out and recruit people to come in, whether he's going to schools, whether he's going to other organizations, recovery centers, you name it. That's what that individual will be doing. So we'll have that all up and running. We're going to do a grand opening ceremony. Of course, we're going to invite you. But if you'd like a private tour, we'll also be able to do that. We're getting near the hard hat phase, and I do have a few extra hard hats to have you come out and see the progress that we're doing. The stated purpose of this facility and programming is to provide clear advancement routes to new contractors, act as a magnet to attract prospective career candidates. And we also want to promote the value of a career in construction, because that's just something that gets lost. I always tell the story about when I was a young real estate agent, that, I was 22 when I got my license, and I didn't have any money at that point in time. I just got to school, and, I was a broke 22-year-old, and never understood how I was selling homes to people that were 22, 23, 24 years old. The one thing a lot of these individuals had in common was they were driving contractor trucks. And they had started their journey 6 years before I did. At 18, they came and they went to work maybe for a company like PC, maybe for a company like DEW. And that's something that's lost. We don't talk about a lot. And that's what you'll see from us with this facility, is really talking about the outcomes of the people that are coming into that industry and how their lives are changed. Quite frankly, someone that comes into this industry and works for 25 years and retires and they take general care of their savings, they're probably going to have 7 figures when they retire from doing this job, working in a trade. They also have the opportunity to break off, start their own business. And I think that's huge. Trying to recognize time, I will watch on it, but if I start getting long-winded, tell me, because I would like to leave.
No, you and John have until 10:30.
So good break.
Great. So just, coming back just to the apprentice model a little bit, because this is something that was new to me coming to ABC. was that, what we look at with this is we put together a commercial construction, and this is to talk a little bit about what we'll do in the facility.
Yeah.
So we currently are operating a commercial carpentry construction apprentice program. So it's very specific to commercial carpentry. And it's a year-long process. It involves three components. There's on-the-job training, and we put together a kind of a hit list per se of what they have. Like, they need to learn stairs, they need to learn framing, they need to learn finishing, and they go through with their employer on those different pieces. There's also an in-class portion where they go through the NCCER training curriculum, and they actually test out on that. So there's a lot of affirmative teaching, coaching, and it's, the tests they're not terribly difficult, but they're hard enough that we're actually making sure that there's an aptitude for what they're learning, and there's assistance where there's any challenges to that learning piece. And then the other part of it is we have not on the job training, but we also do a half day once a week of training with our instructor, where they may be with our instructor one day and he's teaching them how to use a power tool, or I got to go and one of our scaffolding vendors was there and they spent a half day showing them how to properly install scaffolding, which actually that was working in construction for 7 years, that was the first time I'd ever seen scaffolding done the right way. So it's very interesting to see that, what they are actually learning in there. So part of this program that we put together and part of our vision and our guide going forward is we're going to adopt other components of construction. So one of those will be masonry. We're looking at developing a welding program. We're looking at a finishing cabinetry program. We're looking at a painting program. These are all desperately needed trades that just aren't out there.
Is machining in the cards, or no? That's
So that may be more in the manufacturing world than
Yeah.
us.
VMEC does a lot of that in our CTEs, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, but like HVAC people are
Mhm.
machining
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
making duct work and stuff like that. But like it's one of our members, Vermont Heating and Ventilation, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
they have their own in-house apprentice program for HVAC where they actually do that machine training.
yeah.
What we'll be able to actually do, and a lot of these trades will really enjoy this, is because we're all using the NCCER platform, we can actually bring them into our training facility and do what they call the core, which is your safety, which is learning basic tool information and that stuff, because the trades really would prefer not to do those. They would rather teach them how to form metal.
Mhm.
Like that's what they
Right,
want to
that's
do.
true.
So they actually will get the benefit of being able to work with us, because the way NCCER works, an agency that allows us to operate,
Mhm.
is if they already have experience in that module, the welding company doesn't need to make the plumbing apprentice program doesn't need them to go back through the OSHA 10 again, or to take that core feat.
So masonry, welding, and what are the others? I'm sorry, I lost count of all the opportunities.
Well, we're gonna so currently, and these are the next, these will be released over the next several years. That's how long it takes to set up the programs. Masonry, painting, cabinetry. We're also looking at welding as an option, and then expanding on those core trainings. In addition to those pieces, that's going to be our apprentice model, right? So we have the apprentice model, and then we'll have our pre-apprentice program that we'll put together. And that's going to be in the months of June and July when the schools let out, and we need to get those people rapidly trained and out there in the workforce. We also are operating things like human resource training and how to business development. And so we're looking at, and as a matter of fact, our education manager will be doing a tour with me next week. We're going around to see what do people need? Is it professional leadership development? Is it HR? Is it conflict? What is that piece that they're needing? And it's a lot of stuff.
So that's okay. That's like my passion. And I just feel like if you have these, I don't know, flexible spaces, like I can just picture so much good stuff happening in here. And my sort of three like pet issues from watching my husband in this industry around folks like this all day is childcare, co-locating with childcare. I mean, often, his guys are the ones calling out because their wife works at the hospital and she can't bring the kids, but he's the one who's going to be calling out and taking care of the kids, because it's just, he can walk off the site a little more easily, honestly, than his partner. So, childcare, a health clinic, just people getting cancer screenings, taking care of themselves, whatever.
Yeah.
And 3, I think if you build something with new Americans in mind, then you get at basic literacy. That like, these are some of the smartest folks. They can build stairs, they can do amazing things, but they can't often write a contract. They can't like my own contractor was like, will you start writing my contracts? Because I edit them for him when he sends them to me. But it's just, they feel like really basic, but valuable visual ways of talking about well-being in the trades in a way that, would be, I think, really like just start so many new conversations. That would be helpful.
And just to tack on Keisha's great idea, there's money and
Yeah, I will
support
also
for
find you
childcare.
money.
I mean,
Yeah.
there is, we now have an opportunity, a real opportunity that we have been able to, all Vermonters are helping finance. So that we are really putting our money into that value of getting people to work when they otherwise might not have been able to. And also so many, anyway, it would be a great opportunity to co-locate a childcare center somewhere close by.
I will find you, but I mean, I know you all know.
I might have to get reskilled for that.
Yeah, me too.
I might need some new skills for that, but I'm willing to explore that.
We can learn.
But there are lots of people you could partner with on that.
So,
And-
but to your third point, the new Americans, that was one of the things that most excited us about the physical location
Yeah.
that we chose.
Yes, in one news.
I mean, we are right in the middle of Route 15, Route 7
Right.
intersection, Winooski schools. We have Essex School, which lost their tech program for construction years ago.
BBB
Burlington,
next door,
BBB.
BFAC next door.
BSAC, who are
Yeah.
also partnering with,
Yeah.
which is another part of what we'll be offering there. In addition to employer-sponsored training, the part of this is to develop a workforce, right? So working with Vermont Adult Learning, working with some of these different programs, we're able to bring in the public at large, and we can duplicate our construction pre-apprentice program and create a construction 101 with a handoff to employers at the end. The neat thing is, I've already been working with BSAC, and they will allow us to work with their forgivable loan program. So
Right.
if someone wants to come in off the street, they can fund the training program that the individual goes through. And when we match them up with an employer at the end of the program, if they stay with that employer for a year, it's a forgivable loan. We all walk away, the tuition gets paid, the person's out on the street, that they've already got a skill, so they're able to walk in and ask for the higher wage rate. That's part of this whole building people thing, is so that they don't start at the bottom. And that's one of the things, I found, when you go out there, if it's a PC or a REARC or a DEW, these are giant companies. And for some people that may not have any experience in the industry, it can be daunting for them to go apply there. And one of the things that we found working with the CTEs and talking to them about, one of the biggest challenges is, and this goes to my last point, where they'll train someone, they'll get them up to speed, and then they send them out to in the employer world. If they don't end up with a quality employer that's, either a merit shop employer like mine, or has another, valuable training program, savvy HR, and they're taking good care, if that person isn't treated well, they leave the industry and they don't come back.
Yeah.
It's not about the employer, it becomes about the industry. So that's why it's important.
Be about the employer. The employer needs to have the values you're talking about
Yeah.
and build and grow that young person's interest and skill.
And that's part of my job, is to promote what we do. It's the marketplace that's out there. And so that we're going to, continue to run with that flag to get more companies believe in that philosophy. And I will say that a lot of the major employers in Vermont, whether they're my members or my former association members, do practice those skills and ethical treatment of their employees. So I wouldn't want to mislead that we have a problem with that per se, but that is one of the challenges. If someone, And we saw this with a registration of contractors in the residential world. We also dealt with this with misclassification issues over the year.
Oh.
If someone goes to work and they think they're being treated as an employee and they fall off the roof, break their leg,
Mhm.
and they're all of a sudden find out they're not an employee, they're an independent contractor. And oh, by the way, your hospital bill's on you.
Right.
That's a problem.
Well, and look what good came out of Vermont Construction Company being held to account
Mhm.
for their workforce. You know, now there's this new oversight entity to,
Yeah.
you know, regardless of how you're classified, et cetera, just to be treated humanely and to figure this industry out, you know, from that perspective. I think that's great work that you're thinking.
Yeah, no, I think I don't know a lot about that. They're
Yeah.
they're not a member, but I did read the press, and sometimes it takes somebody else tapping you on the shoulder and telling you how to do it the right way.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we realized when the physical work began on this training facility is that even with our major investments from the association, generous contributions by members, and a successful business plan that we have, this is extremely expensive. And one of the things that we've identified another one that we've identified is, in addition to us putting this together, that's very expensive, but also for employers that are out there, sometimes sending people out to training can be very expensive. Now, we all know that the average, 78% of Vermont employers have 10 or less people within their companies. These are small businesses. So sometimes when an employer has to look at, especially now, if an employer is concerned about having tariffs come up or something else, they're challenged, even if it's only $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to send somebody out for a course. So getting people off to those training courses sometimes can be more difficult. Maybe not as much for the giant employers, but again,
But for
they seem
small,
giant.
big time.
But for some of the smaller ones that they want to upgrade their workforce, keep them, be competitive, grow their businesses, sometimes a little bit of government help might
Mhm.
be attractive to them. So we had two small requests, and then I'll turn it over. I'll open to questions and then turn it over to my friend John here.
You hit us with the request and then you just pivot,
No.
John.
Yeah, no, I'll answer questions, but the two requests, and I'm making these requests realizing what kind of fiscal year we're looking at, that we're dealing with the education funding crisis. So I'm trying to figure out something that'll work. And one of those things that we thought of that might make sense to help employers of all sizes send their people off is to create a Vermont corporate tax credit to assist employers who are sending their staff off to state recognized credential programs. So the NCCER program is one of those, but there are other programs in nursing and manufacturing and other programs that employers might find that beneficial. Again, when you talk to an employer or an investor, tax credits are very attractive. And it's something that we believe will help that out. So I've supplied a little bit of language in here. Of
Yeah,
course,
if you get that to us, we have two members of finance on this committee.
Great.
One's sick at the moment, but Randy's hearing.
Good. Yeah, so I think we'll have to see if we have capacity for it. And I don't know what type of limitations might exist, but I'll work on getting some language out that maybe can become part of a workforce.
Do you have a notion of what it would cost and how we might finance it? I mean, because that's money, obviously we're losing. So
Yeah.
what would we cut to? I mean, do you come with us with a balance so that we?
So that's why we have you.
Growth. I mean, growth. It is,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh.
we have people missing from the workforce. We have
Growing their skills, it will
Yeah.
be better.
So
Okay,
the
second.
reason why we thought that a tax credit may be appropriate is that you're actually talking about dollars actually spent
Yeah.
and invested upfront by the employer. You're not required to come back every single year and make a specific appropriation that X, Y, and it doesn't benefit just one organization. It can benefit others.
Yeah, no, I think this actually is a great idea. And actually, I would build on it by maybe having the employer guarantee that the income to get back to what we get back, that sort of like the veggie program, that their income would also, when they return, their wage would increase.
You know what? I have a good answer for you. When they go through that program, they're required to have that advancement through our apprentice program. So that absolutely we can do that.
Yeah, I think that would be key. And then you balance the,
Yeah.
but many of our other programs also, so you know, do that with future benefits in mind. And some legislators have a hard time wrapping their heads around future benefits. But keep going. What's the second piece?
Yep.
That's a good first piece. I think that's great.
So that's a good one, and that I think, we'll have to go work with finance and ways and means on that to find some capacity, but.
Yeah, but in our economic development bill, we might include it. So we just need to, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll give you some suggestive language. And then the other one,
I think you have to think about also there is that notion. So often we do some sort of an advancement in order to get people to do something, and they do it, they take the advancement and then they leave the state. It's just something in the back of our minds that we should be thinking about how we grow something like this.
yeah,
Higher wage and commitment to stay, correct?
yeah, no, and that's something we're trying to contemplate how we can do that too, because when they go through the apprentice program, all of a sudden they become gold to the other employers.
Right.
So
All over the region.
yeah, so.
Okay, second half.
So the second one, and this may
Because
be
I
a
want John
little,
to have some time.
this may be a little more heavy of a lift. But one of the things that's been very challenging is equipment acquisition. And I know that's not just with us, but it's, some of these manufacturing equipment, some of these robotics that people are using in different programs. So I would suggest that there's,
Equipment acquisition for the training center?
yes.
Okay.
So there are grants that exist, and we're participating in a federal grant through the ACCD. That's a much larger, more difficult, very 20-page application process. What I'm suggesting is a smaller Vermont version of that maxes out at $100,000 that could be offered to training facilities. Again, not just ADC, but training facilities that are following a state agency of education recognized training program. And that could be manufacturing, that could be pharmaceuticals, that could be any other training program that's out there. But the equipment is rapidly becoming more expensive, and the technological aspects of it is advancing on a fairly regular basis. So that makes it a little difficult to keep up with. Like in the construction world, they use everything as batteries now. Like they don't have air operated equipment, or they don't plug in anymore. It's all battery operated. So the next steps that as we go forward are we're working more GPS related equipment and tools, equipment simulators, things like that to help people learn. So, and I'm sure that's with every other.
So why can I never remember the name of the very cool company that's gotten veggie dollars that's doing charging, like they're working with
Dynapower?
not Dynapower. Oh,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
they do like medical device charging all the
Yeah.
way to charging huge supply trucks, but there's no physical connection. So it's like so it's very cool. It's very cool. But anyway, I would think, my mind goes to the new tech hub that got $23 million from the fest. They should hopefully be a partner in this too. That's been part of the semiconductor work at Global Foundries.
Right.
But if you need help talking to the tech hub and making sure that connection is strong, that's a lot of federal money we just got, which I would hope goes into a partnership like this as well.
Yeah, but you're right. The equipment is evolving so fast and is now so expensive.
Yeah.
Somehow finding grants and partnerships for that, it would be.
Yeah.
And we can start thinking about that. That may not be it, but
and
this
on
year.
logic helping. So.
Yeah.
One of my numbers.
You have 10 minutes
Let
and
me just go like this and get out of here.
no,
Let my
if you
friend
have a
know.
pivot and
See, I asked for something and now I'm moving on.
so do you have somebody you'd like to introduce?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce John Pizzagalli. John's with Pizzagalli Properties, so he's the chair of our board of directors that still has a working name.
Resonant Link.
Resident Link.
Resonant
Okay.
Link. Not an easy name to remember, but Resonant Link is doing very cool things here.
This is why you come. We all learn things every day.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm John Pizzagalli. I'm not with Pizzagalli Properties.
Oh, my apologies.
I work with my sisters in our own adventures. I used to work for Pizzagalli Construction, and I'm going to just rehash just to raise a couple of key points. We covered a lot of stuff. Starting with Frank, he was pretty good at outlining, where we sort of come from for this problem. And Matt did a good job of laying out what we're trying to do about it. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes on how I think we got here as a state and a country. And it really boils down to a couple of things. For a long time, as the state sort of was losing its family farms, you can go back to 40 years or so, there was construction as an industry benefited from a steady drumbeat of people coming off the family farm from outside Chittenden County looking for work. And those folks, they knew what a day's work was, used to working outside, they could solve any problem that you put in front of them. And they could fix things, they could operate equipment, and they were an automatic hire on the spot, ready to work. Yeah. And those people have stopped showing up. They stopped showing up a long time ago.
Or they retired.
Or they retired. But this problem has been, since I started construction, I started working at Fitzgerald Alley in '84 during my summers, but that was touched on earlier. And I went out and I learned a very valuable early work experience, set of skills. Those people are no longer coming through the door to look for work. And on top of that, we've had, since I was in high school, growing up, went to South Lincoln High School, the vocational ed offerings were down the hall, around two corners, out by the dumpsters, in the loading dock, in the smoking area. And it was nothing people wanted to be part of. It was the failure track, right? So there has been several generations of kids who have been being told that if you're not going to college, well, we'll take care of you over here, but sorry, you're not going to college. Like it's a real scarlet letter for people of a certain generation, I think.
It was, yeah.
It was. And so the hangover is here in force. And the people that are thinking about a career in trades, there is a real resurgence in its sort of cachet, I'll say. But we got to work a lot harder at making it a desirable, honorable, attractive place to go work and spend your career. And Matt's example about young people driving new trucks and putting money in their pocket and saving for retirement is very real. But we're struggling against a perception that is not, feels like it may be getting better, but it is nowhere
I'm
near.
telling you, the Guild, they play like video games of the Dungeons and Dragons, like this, they know this language.
John, I think you're absolutely right. And I think one of the reasons it's the lag, because I think the kids are discovering and there's I think that stigma is changing, definitely. But I think part of the lag is us, the parents who have that perception still, and not necessarily the kids who are really jazzed by some of the opportunities if they're well introduced to them.
It's worse than that, I think, because what we're trying to do here, we're talking about a lot of talk about weatherization, green building, basic carpentry. That's scratching at the surface of what we need to get done. Widening Technologies in their new expansion, Widening, critical employer, right? Near Lindenville. People who just learned how to spray foam aren't going to build that. The difference between the skills that we're talking about and what PC and these other local contractors that we're trying to support do is it's like, rec sports versus major leagues. Okay? There's a big leap there. So the level of skills that we're trying to develop, we're starting at a very, very basic level, and we have a long way to go. And I'm going to just jump through all this stuff that I've written down here because most of it's been covered. But what we're talking about is a very Vermont approach to solving this problem. We have this great industry support in ABC. They are the adult in the room, so to speak. In the room are people like myself. I'm not affiliated with any particular company, but my board that I'm chairing to run this training center has members from 3 different significant general contractors in the state, the most significant ones. So it's a team of rivals. You guys have read the great book.
Could you?
Yeah, that was.
We have Cummings represented.
Okay.
REARC, we have PC. And the TEWs and Engelberts are doing the things that Matt talked about. They're providing in-kind support, donating
Oh,
materials.
great.
We are neighbors. We are not competitors. We are trying to fix this because we all
Oh,
recognize
we all benefit.
we'll all benefit, but I mean, everybody in this room relies directly or indirectly on construction.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, another of my little rubs is that all the programs that come out of Montpelier that are focused on workforce readiness, job development, training. To me, I mean, I talk a lot about them. I sit on Frank's board and we talk to the roundtable all the time. They've always been focused at what I think are about the CNC operator level and focusing on high-tech jobs. And everybody wants high-tech jobs. But if you bring high-tech companies to Vermont, show them around, and they can't get the support they need from buildings and pool installs and expansions and refits, they're going to find that out of date, or they're going to hire out of state contractors. So I want to just make a few of those points. They're very important. And we're taking a major first step, and everybody's super excited about it. We're at this great point. We've all been trying to do it on our own, all these companies, with limited success, but this new sort of arm in arm approach is gonna go. We have to make this work.
How many students at its height are you think you'll be able to not process is the wrong word, how many will you be able to use, or how many students can take advantage of this at any one time? Because I think if you're partnering with adult ed, you're also going to be doing nighttime things. It's going to be more of a 16-hour-a-day facility than an 8-hour-a-day facility.
Yeah, we'll get there. We've set a goal to put 100 kids through in the first 12 months.
Great.
And we think that's modest and achievable.
100 people.
Students.
Yeah, right. So adults and, I mean,
Yes,
students.
people. Thank you. Okay, people. But as we get our feet under us and see what the other needs from industry are, we're going to adapt and throw the thing up as needed. I think we've never talked about an upper limit, right? We signed a 3-year lease. Excuse me, we signed a 5-year lease, but I made sure we had a 3-year opt-out because our hope is that if we're successful enough, we're going to go where the geography is more appropriate. We think Winooski was a great start. It might be Georgia. It might be closer to Rutland. It might be
Windsor County would love
might
you,
be a
Springfield.
second location. All those things are in the offing, but we got to walk the floor.
Right. So that you see this at its best as a model that we could roll out regionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good. I like that thinking.
I mean, we're all,
We have the space for you in Springfield.
everybody involved, leads construction, and we love it. And I've told a lot of young people, I don't know of any industry that can show up. If you just show up every day and are willing to solve whatever the problems are with the people around you, at the point we are in our industry, you are a rock star.
Yes.
You are the chosen one for advancement. The sky's the limit. We just got to tell people this is a dignified, important, critical role.
Agreed. And I
Not a
think,
failure track. We need these people.
I think one of the nice pivots is I think most legislators, as we talk around the state, and certainly in our campaigns, all have been trumpeting the success and opportunities of a career in the trades and a career of many of the exciting things that our CTE centers are offering. And it's a huge range, as you know.
It is a huge range. A word on CTEs. Any one of the people hiring people from CTEs will tell you they're not ready to go to work. They have an interest maybe, and they have some very basic skills, but they're not.
But we need
done.
this bridge.
They're-
We need these pre-apprenticeships.
Yes, to call them graduate, they haven't. A graduate to me is somebody that's finished this and is ready for it. These people are not graduates. They're finished whatever CTE has to offer, but they haven't.
But they're not ready to work. David.
Is that a curriculum problem or is that a length of like the
That's a good question.
education role.
Excellent question. I think if you took a hard look at the CTEs, all the issues that were raised, fighting over money, they're well intended. I think they offer a lot of exploratory function for, you mentioned
that's
that's why they
probably
offer exists, digital photography and graphic design.
Right.
There's a whole host of
Airline, I mean, they're doing like wings construction.
If you go to Wilmington,
Yeah.
if you're in Wilmington,
Yeah.
you can be a mountain bike mechanic.
Yeah.
Because Kingdom Trails is nearby. Well, are they pumping out 20 mountain bike mechanics? Of course not. People are picking at what the offerings are, which is fine. But I think
That should have been in middle
Montpelier-
school and then by high school.
Well, that's my point. I mean, I really think we need to be starting this a lot earlier in terms of building a lot of those soft skills and then getting them engaged in the work and training much earlier so that by the time they're senior, they then can also be doing the work that gets them ready to work. As, trained and then also ready to work, the soft skills that get them ready to work.
Maybe, but I think a lot of folks in this building feel like CTE has checked the box for the trades workforce readiness. And
It's much better.
I'm here to tell you that's not the answer.
Yeah.
Completely.
Can I ask, like, so you talked about OSHA, what age would you like to see people? If there weren't regulations in the way, what age would you like to see people?
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because as I tried to get my kids, my work experience as a 13-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolute gift.
Yeah, no, as I
And
think.
as I tried to get my
Totally.
kids out there without a family business or a farm,
Mhm.
you literally cannot use scissors. Okay,
Right.
you cannot use
Yeah.
any.
But that's not us. That must be federal. That's
That's
certainly not
probably
us. Come on.
Well, but
That's a
But
great
let's
Yeah.
explore that. We have a family business center at UVM. This has come up because I worked in my dad's restaurant in ways
Yeah.
that people cringe at, but it changed my life. So unless you have a family business, you're truly not allowed to do anything.
Or a farm. Then
Yeah.
anything
Or
goes.
yeah.
Anything.
Anything where you're famous. So, but those, I mean, you use scissors at school. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I don't know if you.
Okay, so.
There's
at some point-
distinctions when you're with an educational institution. You can actually go out and do some of that stuff because they're covered with the educational institutions
But
umbrella.
can't we get you covered under the same thing?
There's mechanisms to do so, but it's complicated. I
Okay.
could.
But maybe that might be the easiest thing, particularly if a lot of these are fed.
I don't know if all of them
Yeah.
are federal. I mean,
So we should
We're
explore, if you
Yeah.
might be kind enough to follow up with us, because we need to take a bit of a break. If you'd be willing to follow up with us,
Well-
that'd be great.
And you should come to the education committee in the afternoon. This is.
So we're doing.
I don't know
We're
what
not scheduled
today,
for it.
you
but
know,
if you
I
have
think,
time, I do.
Because I
Yeah.
think our CTE, because it's a sort
Yeah.
of cross jurisdictional piece, the CTE piece, so.
the good news is between here you have economic development, finance, education, and this is a shared.
And
So you don't have to, you should go do whatever you need to do Friday afternoon, but we've been talking to Jason Webster about carpentry licensure. I mean, like, we need to hear from you all what the package looks like and just write it. So,
I know you agree. I appreciate everybody.
No, it's
listening to
what-
us.
this is great.
And I'm happy to tell the story and a real lived experience,
Yeah.
what industry is seeing and what we need. And this is it. Right? We have this great momentum. But I want to underscore it is a very small step. We have a long
Yes.
and perception of what the trades are and can be as a meaningful, dignified, important way to make a living. That's pretty high on that list to see. This.
Well, it's high on our list too, so I think we have common goals. Thank you.
Thank you.